Right after I signed the divorce papers, I sold every share I owned in the Gu Group overnight. For days later, my billionaire ex-wife officially took control of the entire conglomerate, while the board desperately searched for me to complete the handover. By then, I was already relaxing on a beach in Sonia, sipping coconut water without a care in the world. Sign this, Shaichuan. The house in Jiangwan is yours, along with 3 million yuan. Yanwei's voice was as cold as ever, calm, sharp, and completely emotionless. I looked down at the divorce agreement she had placed in front of me. Beside the expensive pen rested her perfectly manicured hand. After 3 years of marriage, I studied her face quietly for what felt like the first time. There was no anger left inside me, no resentment, not even the lingering pain I'd carried for years. All I felt was relief, as if the weight crushing my chest had finally been lifted. Without hesitation, I picked up the pen and signed my name in one smooth stroke. It was neat, quick, and decisive, like I had been waiting 3 years to write it. A flicker of surprise crossed Yanwei's face. She clearly hadn't expected me to agree so easily. She had probably imagined I would beg her to stay, argue, or ask for another chance, just as I always had before. Instead, I slid the signed agreement back across the table, stood up, and walked away. Goodbye. No, not goodbye. We would never see each other again. As I stepped out of the Civil Affairs Bureau, the warm May sunshine hit my face. The air felt cleaner without the scent of her perfume lingering around me, and for the first time in years, I could breathe freely. I took out my phone and called my assistant, Lin Hao. He answered almost immediately. Brother Chuan, tell Chang Yen to sell every share I own in the Gu Group before the market closes today. There was a brief silence. All of them, every single share. The stock is trading at its highest point right now. Your holdings are worth over 1 billion yuan. I know exactly what they're worth, I interrupted. That's why we're selling today. Lin Hao didn't ask another question. After working with me for 8 years, he understood one thing better than anyone else. When I said all, I meant all. I'll take care of it immediately. I ended the call, hailed a taxi, and headed straight to the airport. Which terminal? The driver asked. International. 20 minutes later, I stood inside the departure hall. The next flight to Sonia still had first-class seats available, so I bought one without hesitation. My phone buzzed. A message from Lin Hao appeared. Chang Yen has started selling the shares. Everything should be completed before the market closes. Estimated cash value, 13 billion yuan. I glanced at the message before locking my phone. To most people, 1 billion yuan was unimaginable wealth. To me, it was only the beginning. As I waited to board, I removed my old SIM card and replaced it with a new one. The number Yanwei had known for the past 3 years no longer existed. When the plane finally took off, I leaned back in my seat and closed my eyes. The last memory that crossed my mind was our wedding 3 years earlier. Standing in her custom-made wedding gown, Yanwei smiled gracefully as she told the guests. He may come from an ordinary background, but I admire his talent. An ordinary background. She would never know who I really was, and now she never would. The plane climbed above the clouds, leaving everything behind. When I landed in Sonia, my phone connected to the local network almost instantly. Lin Hao called within seconds. Brother Chuan, it's done. Everything has been sold. The market closed a little higher than expected. The final amount came to 14 billion yuan. Good. But things have exploded at the Gu Group. It has nothing to do with me anymore. President Gu has already called the company 17 times asking about your share transfer. She wants you back within 3 days to complete the handover. I'm in Sonia. I know. Then tell them they won't be able to find me. Understood. Lin Hao hesitated before continuing. There's one more thing. This afternoon, the Gu Group officially announced that Yanwei has taken over as the company's new president. The acting president has already stepped down. And the very first document she signed revoked all of your permissions within the Gu Group. I couldn't help but laugh. Revoked what? I don't own a single share anymore. There's nothing left for her to freeze. That's the point, Lin Hao replied. She didn't realize you'd already sold every share until after she signed the order. I heard she went completely pale. And then Xiao Mingxian went into her office and stayed there for 40 minutes. Xiao Mingxian, vice president of the Gu Group, a lifelong friend of the Gu family, Gu Yanwei's childhood sweetheart. For the past 3 years, he'd been the biggest thorn in my side. I see, I said calmly. From now on, don't update me on anything related to the Gu Group. Understood. Lin Hao hesitated for a few seconds before speaking again. Brother Chuan, what about Star Abyss? Star Abyss Technology. Those 3 words hadn't left my mouth in 3 years. Tomorrow morning at 10, I said. Connect me to Cheng Yen through the encrypted line. Understood. After ending the call, I stood in front of the hotel's floor-to-ceiling windows. The evening sun slowly melted into the sea, painting the horizon in shades of gold and orange. I grabbed a bottle of water from the minibar and stared silently at the view outside. 3 years. For 3 years, I'd lived as the Gu family's live-in son-in-law. 3 years of cold stares. 3 years of ridicule. Gu Yanwei's mother, Shang Lihua, never missed a family dinner without reminding everyone. Yanwei is too kind. Without her, how could Shaichuan possibly have the life he enjoys today? Just last month, Gu Yanwei's younger brother, Gu Yanqin, pointed at me during a banquet and sneered, "Brother-in-law, besides living off my sister, what can you actually do?" Even the receptionist at the company looked at me with quiet sympathy. To everyone around me, Shaichuan was nothing more than a man with no family background, no connections, and no achievements. A useless husband surviving on his wife's generosity. What they never realized was that version of me had only ever been a shell, a disguise I had created with my own hands 3 years earlier. As for the man hidden inside that shell, they were never worthy of seeing him. I took another sip of water just as a news notification appeared on my phone. Gu Group undergoes major leadership change. Founder's daughter Gu Yanwei officially takes over. Former son-in-law reportedly sells his shares and walks away with nothing. Walks away with nothing. I smiled. They actually believed my 9% stake in the Gu Group represented my entire fortune. What they didn't know was that those shares were nothing more than a small investment I had casually placed into the company when I married Gu Yanwei. My phone rang again. An unfamiliar number from the capital. I answered. "President Shen, it's been a long time." A deep, familiar voice came through the speaker. "Star Abyss's quarterly report is ready. Should I email it? Or would you like me to fly over and brief you in person?" I watched the last rays of sunlight disappear beyond the sea. "Email it. Fong Hai." "Understood. One more thing." His tone became more serious. "The invitation for this year's May 4th Youth Innovation Summit has arrived again. The organizers specifically requested that the founder of Star Abyss attend. I declined on your behalf as usual. But this year is different." "How?" "The Gu Group has joined as a co-host. Gu Yanwei personally signed the cooperation agreement." My hand paused around the bottle. "And Xiao Mingxian has been invited as one of the keynote speakers. His presentation is titled The Breakthrough Path of Young Entrepreneurs." I couldn't help laughing. The man who can barely read a financial statement is going to lecture people about entrepreneurship? Fong Hai laughed quietly. "So, should I decline again?" "No." I looked out across the darkening sea. "I'll think about it." After hanging up, I set the bottle on the table. May 4th. 20 days remained. More than enough time. The next morning, exactly at 10 o'clock, the encrypted line connected. "Boss." Cheng Yan's rough voice came through the speaker. He was the CFO of Star Abyss Technology and, besides Fong Hai and Lin Hao, one of only 3 people who knew my true identity. "The Gu Group shares have all been sold." "Good. I don't need that money. Transfer every cent into Star Abyss's strategic investment account. All 14 billion yuan? Every last yuan." Cheng Yan laughed. "Only you would call 14 billion a small amount. How are we doing?" As of yesterday's close, Starabis has a market valuation of 42 billion yuan and cash reserves of 8.3 billion. 42 billion. 7 times the value of the Gu Group. Yet from the day the company was founded, no one had ever discovered who its founder really was. On every public document under the founder's name, there were only 3 simple words: anonymous shareholder. Anonymous shareholder. I looked at the words for a moment before speaking. Cheng Yan, I need you to do something. Name it. Investigate someone. Who? Xiao Mingxian. What exactly do you want? Everything. His business records from the past 5 years, every company he's connected to, every cash flow, every transaction. How detailed? Detailed enough to know how many pairs of shoes he bought. Cheng Yan laughed. Give me 48 hours. 24. Deal. I ended the call, changed into shorts and slippers, and headed down to the beach. The shoreline was quiet, with only a handful of people scattered across the sand. I settled into a lounge chair, ordered an iced drink, and slipped on my sunglasses. Just as I started to relax, my phone rang again. It was Lin Hao. Brother Chuan. We've got a problem. What happened? Gu Yanwei has frozen the Jiangwan property that's under your name. On what grounds? She claims there's an additional clause in the divorce agreement. The property transfer requires both parties to be present. Since you left the city, she applied for asset preservation, saying you failed to complete the handover. I slowly took off my sunglasses. So, she still doesn't want to let me go. The lawyer says the freeze could last up to 6 months. If you don't return to deal with it, she could drag it out even longer. Then let her. There was a brief silence. Brother Chuan. That property is worth more than 30 million yuan. I cut him off. Lin Hao, do you know why I divorced her? Not really. Because in that house, I was treated worse than a dog. The line went completely silent. Her mother made me serve tea to every guest. I did it. Her brother ordered me around in front of his friends. I put up with it. She gave me a meaningless office job, where I clocked in at 9 every morning and left at 6 every evening. I lived like that for 3 years. I paused. For those entire 3 years, I never spent a single cent of her money. Every month, I handed over my entire salary without touching it. The 5,000 yuan she gave me as living expenses was barely enough for cafeteria meals and subway fare. Lin Hao didn't say a word. And now she freezes a 30 million yuan property because she thinks that's how she'll keep me under control. I put my sunglasses back on. If keeping that house makes her happy, she can have it. I understand, Lin Hao replied quietly. Anything else? He hesitated. Gu Yanqin posted something on his social media today. What did he say? He wrote, some people think selling a few worthless shares will change their fate, but they still don't know their place. Without my sister, you couldn't even afford your next meal. I smiled faintly. Take a screenshot. Huh. Save it. You'll need it later. 3 days later, Cheng Yan's investigation arrived. An encrypted email. 47 pages, along with a compressed folder full of supporting documents. I sat at the hotel desk and read every page carefully. Xiao Mingxian, 32 years old, born in the capital, graduate of a prestigious business school. On paper, his resume looked outstanding. In reality, it was mostly empty. He owned 3 companies. 2 were losing money. The third survived entirely on contracts from the Gu Group. The most interesting discovery appeared on page 31. 2 years earlier, Xiao Mingxian had personally borrowed 80 million yuan from an offshore company for an undisclosed purpose. If you're enjoying our stories, please take a moment to subscribe to the channel. Your support means the world to us and helps us create more amazing content for you. We're on a mission to reach our first 1,000 subscribers, and every single subscription brings us one step closer. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Thank you for being part of our journey. The loan had never been repaid. The offshore company's real owner couldn't be traced. But the money eventually ended up in an account belonging to a company called Shining Investment. Its legal representative was Xiao Mingxian's mother. I slowly closed my laptop. 80 million yuan. Money quietly flowing through offshore companies before returning to businesses controlled by his own family. If those funds had originated from kickbacks paid by Gu Group suppliers, then Xiaoming Xian wasn't simply Gu Yanwei's childhood friend. He was a parasite feeding on the company itself. I picked up my phone and called Feng Hai. I've made my decision. I'm attending the May 4th Youth Innovation Summit. There was complete silence on the other end. You're going? In person? Yes. As the founder of Star Abyss Technology. I could hear his breathing change. President Shin. Are you certain? The entire industry has spent 3 years trying to figure out who founded Star Abyss. Hundreds of rumors have circulated, but no one has ever guessed it was you. I know. If you reveal yourself now, it'll be like showing everyone my cards. I smiled. But some cards lose their value if you keep hiding them forever. I understand. I'll confirm your attendance with the organizers immediately. One more thing. Go ahead. Order me a suit. A suit? I haven't worn formal clothes in 3 years. My measurements have probably changed. Feng Hai laughed. I'll have someone come take your measurements. After ending the call, I stepped onto the balcony. Far out at sea, a white yacht drifted slowly across the water beneath the evening sun. 20 days from now, Gu Yanwei would be sitting in the audience. Xiaoming Xian would be standing on stage. And I would finally show both of them who the so-called loser who walked away with nothing really was. There was no need to rush. The best performances are worth waiting for. On the 7th day, I had grown tired of Sonia and flew back to Jiangwan. I wasn't returning to the Gu family home. I was going home. My villa was tucked away in the quiet center of Jiangwan, inside Lanyu Bay, a private estate with no nameplate outside the gate. I had bought it 3 years ago for 78 million yuan, paying in full. Officially, the property belonged to Star Abyss Technology, and no one knew I lived there. Lin Hao was already waiting at the entrance with a stack of documents in his hands. Brother Chuan, you're back? Yeah. I changed into slippers, walked into the living room, and sat down. What's going on? 2 things, he replied. One good, one bad. The bad news first. President Gu traced where the money from your stock sale went. I raised an eyebrow. How? She had the Gu Group's legal department investigate the brokerage records. They found that your shares were purchased by 3 different investment firms. One of them has a parent company registered in the Cayman Islands, so she suspects someone powerful is backing you. I smiled faintly. It doesn't matter what she suspects. What has she actually found? So far, only the name of the Cayman company. Yuaning Holdings. I couldn't help smiling. Yuaning Holdings. Star Abyss Technologies' overseas investment platform. When I registered it years ago, I intentionally reversed the characters in the company's Chinese name. Let's see if she can figure that one out. And the good news? Lin Hao handed me another document. Star Abyss's next-generation AI chip officially passed final approval from the Ministry of Industry and Information Technology today. The mass production license has been granted. I opened the folder. A bright red government seal stood out on the page. This chip represented 4 years of work. For the first 3 of those years, everyone believed I was nothing more than a useless employee at the Gu Group, clocking in every morning and leaving work exactly on time. What nobody knew was that every night at 9 o'clock, after leaving the Gu family villa, I drove to an ordinary office building in the southern part of the city. There, my Star Abyss research team and I worked until dawn. For more than 1,400 nights. From the first concept, to chip design, to tape out, packaging, testing, I personally supervised every stage. What about production? I asked. The first manufacturing line is ready. Shipments begin next month. The first 3 international clients have already signed contracts worth a combined $2.7 billion. Good. I closed the folder. I'll announce it at the May 4th Innovation Summit. Lin Hao looked surprised. At the summit? Yes. It's the perfect stage. The audience is large enough. The media coverage is extensive enough. He looked at me for a moment. Brother Chuan, did you choose that event on purpose? I smiled. What do you think? He understood immediately and asked nothing more. On the 10th day, I received an unexpected visitor. Not at Lanyu Bay. At a small coffee shop in Jiangxing's old district. I was sitting by the window with a printed newspaper spread across the table when the cafe door opened. A woman wearing a beige trench coat walked in. Short hair, light makeup, the same cold, composed expression. Yanwei, my ex-wife. She scanned the cafe before her eyes stopped on me. After a brief pause, she walked straight over and sat across from me. You really know how to disappear, she said. Her voice hadn't changed. Calm, flat, as emotionless as if she were discussing company business. I'm not hiding. I just don't want to be found. That's the same thing. Her eyes lingered on me. You've lost weight. I've been eating better. But somehow I'm thinner. She ignored the joke. Instead, she reached into her bag and placed a file on the table. The shares you sold. They were acquired by 3 investment firms. One of them is a Cayman Islands company called Yuan Holdings. She looked directly into my eyes. What's your relationship with that company? None. Shaichuan. She pressed the file onto the table with a sharp slap. Stop playing games. Yuan Holdings was incorporated just 3 days before you sold your shares. It has only $1 million in registered capital. No operating history. And yet it managed to purchase 4% of your stake. She leaned forward slightly. Tell me honestly, you expect me to believe you had nothing to do with it? I calmly took another sip of my coffee. You came all this way just to ask me that? I came to find out what you're really planning. I met her gaze without flinching. We're divorced, President Gu. For the first time since she arrived, the word divorced caused the slightest crack in her expression. It disappeared almost instantly as she regained her usual icy composure. The share transfer concerns the Gu Group's interests. It has nothing to do with whether we're divorced. I set down my coffee cup. And exactly what interest of yours has been affected? The shares I owned were acquired legally, and I sold them legally. Every step was handled by lawyers and licensed brokers. If you have a problem with it, take me to court. She looked like she wanted to say something, but I spoke first. There's one thing I should warn you about. I set my coffee cup down and looked her straight in the eye. If you're planning to investigate Yuan Holdings, I'd advise you not to. Her eyes narrowed. Why? Because what you find may not be what you want to see. A flicker of uncertainty crossed Gu Yanwei's face. What exactly do you mean? I mean exactly what I said. I stood up, placed a 100 yuan bill on the table, and smiled faintly. The coffee is on me. Take your time, President Gu. As I turned toward the door, her voice stopped me. Shaichuan. I didn't look back. I pushed open the cafe door and stepped outside into a light drizzle. I hadn't brought an umbrella. Instead, I simply walked into the rain. As expected, no footsteps followed me. Gu Yanwei would never lose her composure in public. No matter how angry or confused she felt, she would hide every emotion behind that calm expression, return to her office, and investigate everything piece by piece. She would keep digging, following every clue, layer after layer, and the deeper she dug, the closer she would come to a truth she had never imagined. By the time I returned to Lanyu Bay, my clothes were soaked. After changing into dry clothes, I sat beside the floor-to-ceiling windows, watching the rain slide down the glass. My phone rang. It wasn't Lin Hao. It wasn't Chang Yen. It was someone whose number had been in my contacts for years. Su Qi, my college roommate in the United States, my closest friend, and the co-founder of Star Abyss Technology. Old Shun, he laughed. I heard you finally got divorced. News travels fast. No kidding. The whole internet is talking about it. Everyone's laughing at the Gu family's live-in son-in-law who supposedly walked away with nothing. Let them laugh. You put up with it for 3 years. That's long enough. So what's next? I'm attending the May 4th Youth Innovation Summit. The line went silent. 3 full seconds passed before he finally spoke. Have you lost your mind? You're actually going public? Yes. The moment you do, the entire tech industry is going to explode. He laughed in disbelief. Star Abyss's value has multiplied 6-fold in just 3 years. Everyone has been trying to figure out who founded it. And now you're going to tell them the mysterious founder is the so-called live-in son-in-law everyone has been mocking? Can you imagine their faces? I already have. His voice grew serious. Old Shin. Once everyone learns who you are, how do you think the Gu family will react? I don't care. Then what do you care about? I watched the rain outside the window. The 3 years I threw away. He didn't interrupt. I could have taken Star Abyss much further. But I stayed in the shadows. I made myself invisible. I gave up everything because I believed that marriage was worth the sacrifice. A bitter smile crossed my face. I know now that it wasn't. Suchi let out a long breath. Then let me do one thing. What? When you reveal yourself at the summit. I'm flying back. I'll stand beside you. We'll appear together. The 2 founders of Star Abyss. One is a Silicon Valley PhD. The other. He laughed. Is the pathetic live-in son-in-law they've been laughing at for 3 years. You're in San Francisco. That's a long flight. Don't try to stop me. I've waited 3 years to see this. If I miss it, I'll regret it for the rest of my life. I smiled. Then come. Oh, there's one more thing. His tone suddenly became much more serious. Your ex-wife. What about her? Didn't she just land a major technology cooperation project? You mean co-hosting the May 4th summit? No. I'm talking about another one. I heard she's negotiating a massive smart city project with Gaian Technology. The contract is worth well over 100 billion yuan. My expression froze. Where did you hear that? Someone inside Gaian told me. They sent me part of the technical proposal submitted by the Gu Group. So, it includes several core technology patents. He paused. Old Shin. They looked very familiar. What are you trying to say? I checked the patent numbers. There are 2 city-level IoT architecture patents listed in the proposal. He took a slow breath. They belong to Star Abyss. For a moment, my mind went completely blank. Our patents? Yes. And they aren't being cited. They're listed directly under the Gu Group's independent R&D section. I gripped my phone tighter. Are you certain? I verified it 3 times. The patent numbers match perfectly. They simply removed the original inventors' names and replaced them with the Gu Group's R&D department. I switched the phone to my left hand. My right hand pressed against the desk so hard my knuckles turned white. For 3 years, I had worked at the Gu Group, showing up at 9 every morning and leaving at 6 every evening. Everyone believed I was nothing more than an ordinary employee. No one knew that while they looked down on me during the day, I was building the very technology that had made Star Abyss one of the most valuable companies in the industry. During that time, people from the Gu Corporation's technical department called me into meetings countless times. They always said they wanted my opinion on certain technical directions or industry trends. I assumed it was routine collaboration. Out of goodwill, I even shared some of Star Abyss's internal research concepts as personal insights. I never imagined they would steal them. Old Shin, you still there? Suchi's voice pulled me back. I'm here. My own voice sounded strangely calm, almost unfamiliar. Do me a favor. Go ahead. Send me the full summary of the Gaian Smart City proposal. Okay. And tell the legal department to start collecting evidence for patent infringement. There was a brief silence. You're going to sue them? Not yet. I stared out the window. Gather the evidence first. When are you planning to make your move? May 4th. Suchi laughed. So you're really planning to set off every bomb at the summit? Not set them off. I slowly stood up. I'm defusing them. What? Some bombs stay hidden in the dark for so long that they end up hurting the wrong people. I looked at the fading sunset outside. Bring them into the light, and they'll hit the people who actually planted them. Su Chi chuckled. Fair enough. Your call. He paused before adding, I'll land in Jiangwan on April 30th. Good. After hanging up, I stood alone in the living room of my villa at Yanwei. The rain had stopped. A break had opened in the clouds, and golden sunlight streamed through, spilling across the floor. The patent theft was far more serious than the divorce. If the Gu Corporation used Star Abyss's core patents to secure a project worth tens of billions of yuan from Gaian technology, the consequences would go far beyond financial compensation. Once exposed, it could damage Star Abyss's technological advantage and weaken the foundation we'd spent years building. I couldn't allow that to happen. But another question bothered me even more. The engineers and managers from the Gu Corporation who had consulted me over the years. Had they acted on their own? Or had someone been directing them? And if someone had, who? I picked up my phone and sent a message to Cheng Yan. Has Xiao Mingxian been involved with the Gu Corporation's R&D division during the past 2 years? The reply came almost immediately. Yes. Last year, he launched a technology innovation acceleration program and brought in a group of technical consultants who reported directly to him. What was the budget? 200 million yuan. How much was actually spent? On paper, 180 million. In reality, less than 50 million went into research and development. I narrowed my eyes. Where did the remaining 130 million go? Through 7 or 8 outsourcing companies. Most of them are shell companies. And the actual owners? Still investigating. But 2 of those shell companies are registered in the same office building as Shining Investment. Shining Investment. The company registered under Xiao Mingxian's mother's name. I leaned back in my chair and slowly closed my eyes. The pieces were finally coming together. Xiao Mingxian wasn't merely a parasite. He was a snake hiding inside the Gu Corporation. On one side, he was siphoning money out of the company. On the other, he was stealing external technology and using it to negotiate a project worth tens of billions of yuan. If the deal succeeded, all the credit would belong to him. If it failed, the blame would fall on the Gu Corporation. And throughout all of it, Gu Yanwei seemed completely unaware of what was happening inside her own company. For a moment, a thought crossed my mind. Should I tell her? The idea lasted less than 3 seconds. Then I dismissed it. Not because I hated her. Because some lessons can never be taught by words. When someone warns you, you doubt them. When you experience it yourself, the truth carves itself into your bones. 3 days later, a piece of news exploded across Jiangxing's business circles. Star Abyss Technology surpasses 50 billion yuan valuation, overtaking Gu Corporation as the city's fastest-rising technology giant. Sources indicate the company's mysterious founder will make their first public appearance at the May 4th Youth Innovation Summit. The announcement spread through the city like wildfire. Everyone was asking the same question. Who was the founder of Star Abyss Technology? At that very moment, the mysterious founder was standing in the kitchen of Yanwei wearing slippers and cooking a bowl of noodles. Lin Hao stood nearby looking conflicted. Brother Chuan. Did President Xin leak the news? Yeah. I stirred the noodles. We needed some bait before we cast the hook. The entire city is trying to guess your identity. The Gu family is in chaos too. Oh. They released an official statement as one of the summit's co-organizers. What did it say? They formally welcomed the founder of Star Abyss Technology and expressed their excitement about the upcoming summit. I smiled. Did Gu Yanwei approve the statement herself? She did. Lin Hao glanced at his phone. She even added an extra line. What line? We look forward to exploring future innovation partnerships with industry leaders. I scooped the noodles into a bowl and drizzled soy sauce over the top. Then I laughed. She has absolutely no idea who she's so eagerly welcoming. True. Anything else? Xiao Mingxian gave an interview to a financial media outlet today. Lin Hao glanced at his phone. The reporter asked what he thought about Star Abyss Technology. He said, a company like Star Abyss relies on capital hype and has no real technological barriers. Truly capable companies like the Gu Group are the backbone of this industry. I took another bite of my noodles. The moment he finished reading, The voice assistant on Lin Hao's phone responded to a notification. I looked up. That voice assistant, I paused for a moment, was developed by Star Abyss. Lin Hao burst into laughter. Brother Chuan, how do you even know that? Star Abyss's voice assistant is installed on over 400 million devices worldwide. It's just probability. I finished my noodles, wiped my mouth and stood up. Arrange a meeting for me tomorrow. With who? Yanwei, the former head of the Gu Group's technology department. The one Xiao Mingxian forced out last year? That's the one. You want to meet him? He should have exactly what I'm looking for. The next afternoon, I met Yanwei at a quiet tea house in Jiangqing's old district. He looked much older than I remembered. Only in his early 40s, yet half his hair had already turned gray. Heavy dark circles hung beneath his eyes, making him look exhausted. The moment he saw me, he froze. After a few seconds, he smiled bitterly. President Shen. I shook my head. Just call me Shaichuan. How did you find me? It wasn't difficult. After leaving the Gu Group, you registered a small technology consulting company in Jiangqing. Your office is in the West City Technology Park. His eyes widened. You even investigated that? I didn't come here to catch up. I looked at him directly. I want to ask you about Xiao Mingxian's Technology Innovation Acceleration Plan. His expression immediately changed. He glanced around the tea house before lowering his voice. Why are you asking about that? Just tell me what you know. He stayed silent for more than 10 seconds. Finally, he sighed. I don't know everything, but I lost my job because of it. Go on. Last March, Xiao Mingxian suddenly brought a group of outsiders into the technology department. He introduced them as an expert consulting team. After they arrived, they immediately took control of all the technical data for 3 core research projects. What kind of data? The IoT protocol architecture, the edge computing framework. He looked straight at me. And the city-level sensor network architecture you shared with us. I remained silent. Shaichuan, we all knew that framework wasn't something you casually came up with. It was far too complete, too mature. It looked like the result of years of systematic research. I asked you about it back then. You told me it was inspired by a few academic papers. He smiled bitterly. But I'm an engineer. I knew that kind of technology couldn't come from reading a few papers. It had at least 3 years of serious research behind it. And then, a few days later, Xiao Mingxian's people collected all of the project files. They claimed they needed to integrate and evaluate the technology. A month later, I found the exact same technical framework inside a proposal submitted for an external bidding project. The inventor information had been changed. His grip tightened around his teacup. I confronted Xiao Mingxian. He told me everything developed inside the Gu Group belonged to the Gu Group. He said I should stop asking questions. I refused. So I reported it directly to Gu Yanwei. What did she say? She told me she'd investigate. And then, the very next day, I was fired. Officially, the reason was leaking company secrets. President Gu didn't stop him. I nodded slowly. That wasn't surprising. Gu Yanwei wasn't a bad person. But she had one fatal weakness. She trusted Xiao Mingxian completely. The trust they had built growing up together outweighed every piece of evidence placed in front of her. I looked back at Yanwei. When they fired you, did you keep any backups? Backups. The original technical documents. The versions before they were altered. He stared at me for a long time. What exactly are you trying to do? I'm returning those technologies to the people they belong to. The rightful owner? Who is that? I didn't answer. Do you still have the originals? Without another word, Yanwei reached into his pocket and pulled out a USB drive. The night I was fired, I copied everything. He placed the drive on the table and slid it toward me. I've carried this with me for a year. I wanted to report it, but I was just a dismissed department manager. No one would have believed me. I picked up the USB drive. Someone believes you now. He looked at me in confusion. Who are you? Really? You'll find out after May 4th. I stood up, left a business card on the table, and walked away. The card contained only two things: a name, Shaichuan, and a phone number, the direct line to the CEO's office at Star Abyss Technology. Behind me, Yanwei turned the card over in his hands again and again, staring at it with a puzzled expression, unable to understand what it meant. It wasn't surprising. No one in the world knew that the owner of that phone number was the mysterious founder of Star Abyss Technology. May 1st, Labor Day. Only 3 days remained before the summit. Thanks to non-stop media coverage, the entire business community of Jiangwan was talking about the upcoming May 4th Youth Innovation Summit. 3 names dominated every headline: Star Abyss Technology, the GU Group, and Xiaoming. His public exposure had become unusually intense. He was everywhere, giving interviews, attending events, and quickly becoming the face of the GU Group's new generation of leadership. One financial outlet even ran the headline: from childhood friends to business partners, Xiaoming and Yanwei are the GU Group's greatest asset. I happened to be watering the flowers in the yard at Yanwei when Lin Hao read the article aloud. Brother Chuan, what do you think is really going on between him and Yanwei? It doesn't matter. But everyone's saying they're about to make their relationship public. I didn't even look up. Lin Hao. Yes. I'm trying to water the flowers. Don't ruin the mood. He smiled awkwardly and fell silent. After finishing in the yard, I returned to my study. 3 files lay neatly across my desk. The first was Star Abyss Technology's patent infringement report. 83 pages. Every page included timestamps, notarized records, and supporting evidence. The second was Cheng Yan's investigation into Xiaoming's financial network. From shining investment to offshore companies, every transfer of money was mapped out in detail. The third contained the original technical files Yanwei had copied before he was fired. Every document had been compared against the proposal the GU Group submitted to Guyan Technology. 97 identical matches. Not a single reasonable explanation. 3 bombs. That was enough. I picked up my phone and called Feng Hai. Are all the arrangements for the summit confirmed? Yes. The event begins at 9 o'clock on the morning of May 4th. Your session is scheduled for 2 in the afternoon during the industry leaders' dialogue. You have 45 minutes. I smiled. 45 minutes is more than enough. There is one more thing. What is it? President Gu requested that Xiaoming's keynote speech be moved to 1 o'clock, immediately before your session. Does she know I'm the guest speaker? I don't think so. The organizing committee kept your identity confidential, exactly as you requested. The program only lists founder of Star Abyss Technology. No real name. Then why move Xiaoming's speech? Apparently, he requested it himself. He wants to speak before the founder of Star Abyss appears, so he can build momentum for the GU Group. I couldn't help smiling. So he wants to warm up the audience before I walk on stage. Fine. Every good performance needs an opening act. And every opening act needs a clown. On May 2nd, Su Qi arrived in Jiangwan. After a 14-hour flight from San Francisco, he came straight to Yanwei without even stopping at his hotel. The moment he walked through the door, he looked around and whistled. Nice place. Worth about 70 million? 78. He laughed. Rich people really do live differently. He dropped onto the sofa and looked at me. All right. Tell me the plan for May 4th. I slid the 3 files across the coffee table. He opened the first one. By the time he finished reading it, he cursed. He opened the second. Another curse. Then he reached the third file. When he finished, he slammed it onto the table. The Xiaoming has some nerve. Patent theft. Embezzlement. Money laundering through shell companies. Any one of those charges could put him in prison. I nodded. So I need you to do one thing. What? At the summit. I'll reveal my identity first. Then I'll release the first piece of evidence in front of everyone. What about the other 2? The second goes directly to the Economic Crime Investigation Unit. The third is reserved for court. He frowned. So you're not exposing everything at once? No. I sat down across from him. The first piece of evidence is enough to destroy Xiao Mingxian's reputation in public. The second and third are for sending him to prison. The public can enjoy the spectacle, but justice still has to follow the law. Su Qi looked at me quietly for several seconds. You've changed. How? The Shaichuan I knew spent every day writing code, designing chips, and hiding in the lab. You never cared about strategy or playing mind games. I smiled faintly. People grow. He slowly shook his head. No, it wasn't growing up. It was those 3 years. They forced you to become this person. I didn't argue. He was right. If I hadn't spent 3 years enduring humiliation, cold stares, and endless insults, I probably never would have learned how to fight back. There is one more thing, I said. What? Yanwei will be at the summit. He raised an eyebrow. So, once Xiao Mingxian is exposed, the Gu Group is going to take a serious hit. The Gu Group stock could crash. Public opinion could turn against them. Su Qi looked at me. And you're still going to release everything? Yes. But I don't want innocent people to pay the price. The Gu Group has more than 30,000 employees. They didn't do anything wrong. I paused for a moment. So I'm thinking, when I reveal the first piece of evidence, should I leave Gu Yanwei a chance to fix things? Su Qi studied me for a long time. Old Shin, do you still care about her? No. Then why? Because she made the mistake of trusting the wrong person. That doesn't make her a bad person. And her mistake shouldn't destroy the lives of 30,000 employees. He thought for a moment before nodding. Then send her something. What? An anonymous summary of the third piece of evidence. Have it delivered 24 hours before the summit. Give her 1 day. If she's smart, she'll cut Xiao Mingxian loose before May 4th. And if she refuses to believe it. He shrugged. Then you've already done everything you could. I nodded. Fine. Have it delivered on the night of May 3rd. On the evening of May 3rd, an unsigned envelope was delivered by courier to the CEO's office of the Gu Group. Inside were only 3 sheets of paper. The first contained a detailed record of the money flowing between Xiao Mingxian's Shining Investment and several Gu Group suppliers. The second was a diagram tracing the real destination of the 200 million yuan budget from the Technology Innovation Acceleration Plan. The third contained only 1 sentence. Take a closer look at the people around you. I didn't know how Gu Yanwei would react after reading it. But I did know one thing. In 24 hours, every secret would be exposed, whether she believed the warning or not. May 4th, Youth Innovation Summit. 7 o'clock in the morning. Lanyu Bay. I stood in front of the full-length mirror in the dressing room. The dark gray suit Feng Hai had custom-made for me fit perfectly. A light blue shirt, no tie. For the first time in 3 years. I was wearing a suit again. The man staring back from the mirror looked nothing like the obedient live-in son-in-law everyone remembered. Lin Hao waited outside the room. Brother Chuan. The car is ready. Where's Su Qi? He went to the venue early. He's doing the final equipment check with Feng Hai and Cheng Yan. The legal team is already in position. The materials for the Economic Crime Investigation Unit are prepared and can be handed over at any time. I adjusted my cuffs. Let's go. As the car drove away from Lanyu Bay, I looked back at the villa through the rearview mirror. After today, I would never need to hide behind another identity again. The summit was being held at the Jiangwan International Convention Center. It was the biggest business event of the year. Government officials, industry leaders, executives from major listed companies, technology experts, investors, media reporters. Nearly 2,000 guests filled the main hall. My car stopped at the VIP entrance. Lin Hao and Feng Hai were already waiting. Feng Hai handed me my guest badge. It read, Industry Leaders Dialogue Founder of Star Abyss Technology, no name, President Shin. I've confirmed everything with the organizers. The moment you walk onto the stage, your identity will be announced. The big screen, the live stream, and the venue's audio system will all update at the same time. Good. Xiao Mingxian's speech starts at 1 o'clock. Your session begins at 2. There's a 1-hour gap. I smiled. 1 hour is more than enough. I walked into the VIP lounge. The moment the door opened, dozens of people looked my way. Senior executives, investors, technology leaders. Many of them knew me, but none of them recognized me. The Shaichuan they remembered always wore plaid shirts, plain black-rimmed glasses, and looked like a programmer who had just graduated from college. Today, dressed in a tailored suit, I looked like someone else entirely. I quietly took a seat in the corner. Lin Hao handed me a glass of water. Brother Chuan, Gu Yanwei has arrived. Where? Front row of the main hall. Xiao Mingxian is sitting beside her. How does she look? Hard to tell from here, but she keeps checking her phone. She seems distracted. So, she had received the anonymous letter last night, but Xiao Mingxian was still sitting confidently beside her, which meant one of two things. Either she didn't believe the warning, or she believed it but didn't have enough time to act. Either way, it no longer mattered. Within the next few hours, the truth would reveal itself. The morning sessions passed without anything unusual. A few panel discussions, several technology demonstrations. Nothing worth paying attention to. I stayed in the VIP lounge the entire time. 3 cups of coffee, 2 industry reports. Before I knew it, it was 12:30 p.m. Lunch break. I skipped the banquet and asked Lin Hao to buy me a sandwich instead. A few minutes later, Su Qi walked in from the venue and sat beside me. Everything's ready, he said. The live stream platform has confirmed the synchronized broadcast. Estimated online viewers have already passed 1 million. Good. Su Qi nodded. Feng Hai has the opening video ready. It's 3 minutes long. It covers Star Abyss's journey from the day it was founded until now. All the data and visuals have been checked twice. At the end of the video, your photo appears. The one taken in the lab while you were wearing a white coat. I shook my head. Change it. To what? Use the photo from my wedding. Su Qi froze. The wedding? Yes. The panoramic photo. The one where everyone was looking at Gu Yanwei. I was standing in the corner wearing a rented suit. No one even noticed I was there. He looked at me in surprise. You want to use that photo? Yes. I want everyone to see clearly. The unnoticed man standing in the corner that day is the founder of Star Abyss Technology. And the people who welcomed me back then are the same people welcoming me today. Su Qi stared at me for several seconds before smiling. You're ruthless. I smiled faintly. This isn't ruthlessness. It's time to settle a debt that's been waiting for 3 years. 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Xiao Mingxian's keynote speech began. I watched the live stream from the VIP lounge. He wore a perfectly tailored black suit with a dark red tie and stood confidently in the center of the stage. Distinguished leaders, honored guests. I'm Xiao Mingxian, Vice President of the Gu Group. Today I'd like to share my thoughts on the path to success for young entrepreneurs. The audience burst into applause. On the screen, I saw Gu Yanwei sitting in the center of the front row. Her face remained calm, but her fingers kept rubbing the edge of her phone. She was distracted. Xiao Mingxian spoke confidently. He moved smoothly from his own experiences to industry trends, then to innovation, strategy, and entrepreneurship. Every buzzword came out effortlessly. Independent research, core technology, disruptive innovation. When he reached the topic of independent research and development, he deliberately slowed down. Our cooperation with Gaian Technology on the Smart City project is progressing smoothly. Every core technology involved was independently developed by the Gu Group. It represents a major breakthrough for China's new generation of entrepreneurs in cutting-edge technology. I slowly lowered my coffee cup. Independent research? He actually had the nerve to say those words. His speech lasted 40 minutes. The applause never stopped. At 1:50 p.m., Xiao Mingxian bowed gracefully and walked off the stage. The host returned with a smile. "Thank you, President Xiao, for your wonderful presentation. And now, we've reached the most anticipated session of today's summit. Industry Leaders Dialogue." The atmosphere inside the hall changed instantly. Nearly 2,000 people sat in complete silence. Even the sound of the air conditioning became noticeable. The host continued. "Over the past 3 years, one company has risen from obscurity to become a technology giant worth more than 50 billion yuan. Its name, Star Abyss Technology." The company's logo filled the giant screen behind him. But the greatest mystery isn't its technology. It isn't its market value. It's the identity of its founder. For 3 years, no one has ever seen the founder. A wave of whispers spread through the audience. Today, on the stage of the May 4th Youth Innovation Summit, the founder of Star Abyss Technology will make their first public appearance. I stood up and adjusted my suit. Su Qi placed a hand on my shoulder. "It's time." I nodded and walked toward the backstage entrance. Feng Hai was already waiting there. He handed me a wireless earpiece. "The video is ready. The moment you walk onto the stage, it begins." "Good." I stood quietly behind the curtain. The lights beyond it were almost blinding. Then the host's voice echoed through the hall. "Please give a warm welcome to the founder of Star Abyss Technology." Thunderous applause erupted. I took one slow breath. Then I stepped onto the stage. 2,000 pairs of eyes turned toward me at once. In the very first row, I saw Yanwei. The polite smile on her face disappeared. Confusion, disbelief. Then her lips began to tremble. She recognized me. At that exact moment, the opening video started. The story of Star Abyss Technology unfolded across the giant screen. From a tiny garage to 4 global research centers, from 3 employees to more than 5,000, from the first line of code to a company worth over 50 billion yuan. Then the final image appeared, the panoramic photo from our wedding. The banquet hall was packed with guests. Everyone surrounded Yanwei, raising glasses and celebrating. Almost hidden in the lower left corner, a young man stood quietly in a rented suit. His head was lowered as he looked at his phone. He was so insignificant that he was nearly cropped out of the picture. The camera slowly zoomed in, closer, closer, until the young man's face filled the entire screen. Then the image split. On one side, the young man from the wedding. On the other, me, standing on the stage. The entire convention hall exploded. Not polite applause, not ordinary surprise. It was genuine shock. That's Shaichuan, the former live-in son-in-law of the Gu family. Wait, wasn't he the man who supposedly walked away with nothing? You're telling me he's the founder of Star Abyss Technology? No way. The entire hall erupted. Voices crashed over one another like waves. I stood quietly on stage, waiting for the noise to settle. When the room finally grew silent, I spoke. "Hello, everyone. I'm Shaichuan." My voice echoed through the speakers, cutting through every whisper in the hall. Most of you probably know me by a different identity. The Gu Group's live-in son-in-law. The invisible employee who clocked in from 9 to 5 every day. The man who, just a few days ago, was divorced by his billionaire wife and supposedly left with nothing. Silence fell across the audience. Then I continued. "But today, I'd like to introduce you to the real me." I turned and pointed at the giant screen behind me. Star Abyss Technology was founded 4 years ago. I am its sole founder. Today, the company is valued at over 51.3 billion yuan. We own world-leading AI chip technology and IoT solutions used by more than 400 million people worldwide. Not a single person spoke. The reason I hid my identity for the past 3 years. My eyes shifted toward the front row. Xiao Mingxian's face had already gone pale. Yanwei's hands were trembling. is because someone took advantage of my trust and stole technology that belongs to Star Abyss. The screen changed. A comparison chart filled the display. On the left, Star Abyss's original patent certificate. On the right, the GU Group's proposal submitted to Guyan Technology. The technical architecture matched. The parameters matched. Even the diagrams were identical. Only one thing was different: the inventor's name. On the patent certificate, Shaichuan. On the proposal, GU Group R&D Department. I looked across the audience. These two core IoT patents were personally designed by me 3 years ago. They legally belong to Star Abyss Technology. But over the past year, they were taken from the GU Group's technical archives, repackaged, and inserted into a smart city proposal worth tens of billions of yuan. The hall exploded with noise once again. Journalists immediately raised their cameras. Phones appeared everywhere. Flashes filled the room. I never looked at Xiao Mingxian. I didn't need to. I already knew what his face looked like. Then I spoke again. I have a question for Mr. Xiao Mingxian. My voice remained calm. Just a few minutes ago, you proudly said that every core technology used in the GU Group's Smart City project came from your own independent research and development. The giant screen switched again. A video clip from his speech played. His own voice echoed through the hall. All core technologies come from the GU Group's independent R&D. The video stopped. I looked directly at him. The original inventor of those patents is standing right here. So, would you like to say those words again? The entire audience turned toward Xiao Mingxian. 2,000 pairs of eyes fixed on him. His mouth opened, then closed. He tried again. Still nothing. Not a single word came out. Suddenly, Yanwei stood up and looked at him. Xiao Mingxian. Her voice was cold. Is what he said true? Sweat rolled down his forehead. Yanwei, I can explain. She took another step toward him. Answer me. Is it true? It was the first time I had ever seen Yanwei lose her composure in public. Xiao Mingxian hurried to his feet. This isn't what you think. The ownership of those patents has always been disputed. You can't simply believe everything he says. I interrupted him. Disputed. I tapped the screen behind me. The patent office records show these two patents were filed on June 17th, 3 years ago. They were officially approved on December 3rd of that same year. Your technology innovation acceleration plan didn't begin until March of the following year. You took patents that had already been legally registered 9 months earlier, used them to decorate your own achievements, and you call that a dispute? His face turned crimson. You're slandering me. I reached into my pocket and held up a USB drive. Slandering you? This drive contains the original files preserved by Yanwei, the former head of the GU Group's technology department. It includes every revision record, every timestamp, every operation log. Every file can be independently verified. I paused. At exactly 11:37 p.m. on the night your team replaced the inventor's name, changing it from Shaichuan to GU Group R&D Department. The operation was performed from an IP address registered to your personal office. A collective gasp swept through the convention hall. Xiao Mingxian's legs visibly shook. Instinctively, he turned toward Yanwei. She didn't even look at him. Her eyes were locked on the comparison chart displayed on the giant screen. Her face had gone completely white. Shaichuan. She slowly stood up. Her voice trembled. Why didn't you tell me sooner? I looked at her from the stage. Across 2,000 people. Across 3 years of silence. Across a marriage. And a signed divorce agreement. Because I knew you wouldn't believe me. Her lips moved, but no words came out. Just like the anonymous letter I had sent the night before. You received that letter. But you chose not to believe it. I looked at Xiao Mingxian, who was still standing beside her. The fact that he's still sitting next to you today is proof enough. Once again, Every eye in the hall turned toward Gu Yanwei. The color drained from her face. White, then red, then white again. Beside her, Xiao Mingxian completely lost his composure. Without warning, he shoved his chair aside and hurried toward the side exit. President Xiao. My voice echoed through the speakers, stopping him in his tracks. Leaving already? He froze. This summit is co-hosted by your company. You were the one who requested today's speaking slot. Every word you said on that stage came from your own mouth. And now that the evidence is out, you want to walk away? Slowly, Xiao Mingxian turned around and forced an awkward smile. Shaichuan. None of this has been legally verified. What you're doing here today is defamation. I'll sue you. I smiled. What a coincidence. I reached into my pocket and pulled out another document. Yesterday, Star Abyss Technology officially filed a patent infringement lawsuit with the Jiangwan Intermediate People's Court. It was accepted this morning. I held up the filing notice. The cameras immediately zoomed in, capturing the court's bright red seal. You can file your lawsuit. I'll continue with mine. We'll meet in court. The smile disappeared from Xiao Mingxian's face. He opened his mouth but couldn't say a word. A second later, he turned around, pushed open the side door, and practically ran out of the hall. The entire venue fell silent. 5 full seconds. Then someone started clapping. No one knew who it was. The applause spread from row to row like a chain reaction until the entire hall erupted in thunderous applause. I remained standing on the stage. I didn't bow. I didn't thank anyone. Instead, I looked toward the center seat in the front row. It was empty. At some point, Gu Yanwei had quietly left without anyone noticing. The second half of the summit became an impromptu press conference for Star Abyss Technology. After I stepped down, Feng Hai took over all media interviews. The engineering team demonstrated the company's new mass-produced AI chips. Su Qi, as Star Abyss's co-founder, accepted interviews from 3 major financial media outlets. I returned to the VIP lounge and quietly closed the door. Lin Hao handed me a cup of warm water. Brother Chuan. Xiao Mingxian ran away. His phone is turned off. Chang Yan wants to know if we should notify the Economic Crime Investigation Unit. I took a sip of water. Not yet. Give him 1 night. He isn't going anywhere. Lin Hao looked surprised. What do you mean? His passport was already placed under exit restrictions 2 days ago. He stared at me. When did you arrange that? Last week. I had Chang Yan submit a formal request to the Public Security Bureau based on suspected commercial crimes. It was approved yesterday. Lin Hao shook his head. Brother Chuan, you planned every step. I smiled faintly. I didn't plan everything. I simply spent 3 years watching, and I had plenty of time to think. Just then, my phone vibrated. An unfamiliar number. I answered. Shaichuan. It was Gu Yanwei. Her voice was nothing like the calm woman everyone had seen during the summit. Now it sounded cold, as if it had been pulled from icy water. Where are you? That isn't important. I need to talk to you. I sighed. I already know 8 out of 10 things you're about to say. So let's not waste each other's time. You think you know everything. I know Xiao Mingxian was a parasite. I know he abused your trust. I know he siphoned nearly 200 million yuan from the Gu Group. I know he stole Star Abyss's patents to secure the Smart City project. And I know that you knew nothing about any of it. Silence filled the line. After a long pause, she finally spoke. You knew all of this, and you never told me? For 3 years. I answered calmly. If I had told you, would you have believed me? I didn't wait for her answer. Your brother insulted me in front of the entire family. You stayed silent. Your mother ordered me to serve tea to every guest. You said I had nothing better to do at home. Whenever Xiao Mingxian texted you late at night, you told me to go to bed early instead of waiting for you. She tried to interrupt. Shaichuan. I continued. Yanwei. You never saw me as your equal. In your eyes, I was someone you rescued, a husband you could display when necessary, a man you generously gave a job and a place to live. She asked quietly, if you really felt that way, why did you marry me? Why stay for 3 years? I closed my eyes. Because I believed you would eventually change. After a brief pause, I added, I know now that you never will. So, she laughed bitterly. You quietly built a company worth over 50 billion. You revealed everything at the summit. And you destroyed everyone, including me. I shook my head. I didn't destroy you. I exposed Xiao Mingxian. What's the difference? Her voice cracked. The whole world now knows I had a thief beside me, and that my ex-husband is the mysterious billionaire founder of Star Abyss. So what am I now? A joke? No. You're a victim. You just refuse to admit it. I don't need you to tell me who I am. Her voice rose. Shaichuan, if you had respected me even a little, you wouldn't have done this in front of the entire world. You could have told me privately. You could have given me the evidence. And let me deal with Xiao Mingxian myself, instead of exposing everything in front of 2,000 people and over 1 million online viewers. I tried. I cut her off before she could finish. The anonymous letter you received last night. That was me giving you a chance. The line went silent. After a few seconds, she spoke. That letter was from you? Yes. You received proof of the money trail. You received the report showing how the project budget had been embezzled. You received a warning telling you to take a closer look at the people around you. So tell me, what did you do? She didn't answer. You did nothing. Either you didn't believe it, or you did, but you didn't want to face the truth. You don't understand. That letter came out of nowhere. I didn't have enough time. Not enough time? I let out a quiet laugh. You had 12 hours. From the moment the letter reached your office until the summit began. In those 12 hours, you could have asked your legal team to verify everything. You could have suspended Xiao Mingxian's speech. You could have launched an internal investigation. You could have done 100 different things. But instead, you chose to pretend nothing had happened. Silence. Long, heavy silence. Finally, I spoke again. Yanwei. One last thing. She answered quietly. I'm listening. You're a capable leader. The Gu Group is in good hands. As long as you remove the cancer called Xiao Mingxian, the company can still recover. She asked softly, then what's my biggest mistake? It isn't trusting Xiao Mingxian. It's believing you're always right. I ended the call. Then I switched off my phone. Sitting by the floor-to-ceiling window of Lanyu Bay, I looked out over Jiangxing's glowing skyline. The city sparkled with endless lights, but none of it belonged to me anymore. For the first time in 3 years, I just wanted a peaceful night's sleep. I didn't have to wait for anyone to come home. May 5th, the entire business world was still talking about the summit. Every major news outlet carried the same headlines. Mysterious founder of the 50 billion yuan Star Abyss finally revealed. Former Gu Group son-in-law exposes patent theft. Gu Group Vice President Xiao Mingxian flees the summit. From live-in son-in-law to tech empire founder. Shun Shaichuan's 3 years in the shadows. The top 3 trending topics all had my name in them. The public reaction was almost unanimous. This is what real innovation looks like. The real genius stayed quiet while someone else stole the credit. Gu Yanwei's judgment is unbelievable. She let go of a husband worth over 50 billion and trusted a corrupt executive instead. Where's Xiao Mingxian now? Did he escape? Has anyone seen him? The answer arrived that very afternoon. Xiao Mingxian was caught at the airport. He had tried to leave the country using a fake passport. Border officers stopped him before he could board. That evening, the Jiangxing Economic Crime Investigation Unit officially opened a criminal case against him for embezzlement and commercial bribery. Later that day, Chang Yan called me. President Shin. Xiao Mingxian has been arrested. I know. There's more. This afternoon, Yanwei called an emergency board meeting. The Gu Group officially removed Xiao Mingxian from every position he held. They also announced full cooperation with the criminal investigation. And they released a public statement admitting there had been serious management failures inside the company. They used the phrase management failures? Yes. But the statement never mentioned you or Star Abyss. I nodded. That's expected. If they admit patent infringement publicly, they hand me the knife. Their lawyers would never allow that. So what do we do now? The court has already accepted the case. We'll let the legal process run its course. No need to rush. Understood. Oh, there's one more piece of news. Go ahead. This morning, Guyan Technology suspended all negotiations with the Gu Group. The official reason was serious concerns about the partner's commercial integrity. He paused before continuing. Then, the CEO of Guyan personally contacted Star Abyss. They want to know whether we're interested in taking over the Smart City project. I smiled. It was a 10 billion yuan contract. It had always belonged to Star Abyss. Now, it was simply returning to its rightful owner. Tell Guyan we're interested. But we're submitting a completely new proposal. We won't reuse anything from the Gu Group. They'll receive the full plan. The one I spent 4 years developing. Understood. And one more thing. Bring Yanwei back. The former Gu Group technical director? Yes. He's an excellent engineer. He lost an entire year because of Xiao Mingxian. Ask if he'd like to join Star Abyss. Position and salary are both negotiable. I'll contact him today. After hanging up, I buried myself in work. For the next 3 days, I barely left Yanwei. Not because I was hiding, because I was busy. I monitored the mass production of Star Abyss's AI chips, reworked the proposal for the Guyan Smart City project, worked with the legal department to prepare evidence for the criminal investigation. In just 3 days, I handled more than 40 phone calls, attended 11 video conferences, signed over 20 important documents. Some nights I collapsed onto the sofa at 3 in the morning, only to be woken again by phone calls at 6. But compared with the 3 years I had wasted inside the Gu Group, this kind of exhaustion finally felt worthwhile. Compared to my old life, this kind of busy felt meaningful. On May 8th, someone I never expected showed up. It was Gu Yanqin, Gu Yanwei's younger brother. The same spoiled rich kid who had once pointed at me during a family dinner and asked, "What can you do besides living off my sister?" Somehow, he found my villa at Yanwei. I had no idea how he got the address. When the doorbell rang, Lin Hao checked the security monitor. "Brother Chuan, it's Gu Yanqin. He's alone. He drove here in a Porsche. Let him in." A few moments later, he walked into the living room. His t-shirt was wrinkled, dark circles hung under his eyes, and he looked like he hadn't slept in days. He stood there, silently taking in the room. The Italian marble floor, the custom walnut furniture, the original oil painting hanging on the wall. Finally, he looked at me. "This house is yours?" "Yes." "How much did it cost?" I smiled. "You came all the way here just to ask about the price?" He took a deep breath, walked toward me, and suddenly bowed 90 degrees. I stared at him. "What are you doing?" "I'm sorry." He straightened up, his face bright red. "I'm apologizing." "For what?" "For everything." He clenched his fists. "For making you drive us around. For yelling at you in public. For mocking you online. For everything." I leaned back against the sofa and quietly looked at him. "Finished apologizing?" "Not yet." He took out his phone and opened the social media post he'd written a few days earlier, the one mocking me. "This one. I'm deleting it." He pressed delete. Then he created a new post. "I owe someone an apology. 3 years late. I was blind. It won't happen again." He handed me the phone. "Is that enough?" Honestly, I was surprised. I had always believed Gu Yanqin was the kind of person who would never admit he was wrong. "Did your sister send you?" He shook his head. "No. She doesn't even know I'm here." "Then why did you come?" He let out a bitter laugh. Because I've watched the summit video 17 times over the last 2 days. And every time I watched it, I felt like more of an idiot. I nodded. At least you know. He looked at me seriously. Shaichuan. There's something I've wanted to ask. What is it? For the past 3 years, while all of us ordered you around every single day, what did you really feel inside? I thought about it for a moment. Nothing. He looked stunned. How could it be nothing? Because your opinions were never something I cared about. He stood there quietly. Then, for the first time, his bitter smile became genuine. Fair enough. I'm convinced. He turned and walked toward the door. Just before leaving, he stopped. I don't know what's going to happen between you and my sister, but there's something you should know. After Xiao Mingxian was arrested, my sister locked herself in her office for 3 straight days. She never cried, but her eyes stayed red. I didn't respond. He looked back at me. It wasn't because of Xiao Mingxian. It was because of you. Then he quietly closed the door behind him. I sat on the sofa for a long time without moving. Lin Hao brought me a cup of tea. Neither of us spoke. Should I care? Maybe not. But if I truly didn't care, why had I sent that anonymous letter 24 hours before the summit instead of just 1 hour earlier? I pushed the thought away. Some questions don't need answers. On May 10th, Star Abyss officially began negotiations with Guyan Technology. This time, the proposal wasn't a patchwork plan stitched together with stolen patents like Xiao Mingxian's. It was a complete technical system that Star Abyss had spent 4 years developing from the ground up. The meeting was held at Star Abyss's headquarters in Jiangwan. It was also the first time I entered my own company through the front door as its founder. Before this, I had always arrived quietly after 9 at night and left before sunrise. No one ever saw me. Today was different. As soon as I stepped through the entrance in broad daylight, the receptionist recognized me. Her eyes widened. Mr. Shin. Welcome. I smiled. Hello. Inside the elevator, I ran into several engineers from the R&D department. The moment they saw me, they froze. They had heard my voice countless times during encrypted meetings and read my emails for years. But none of them had ever met me face to face. One of them finally gathered the courage to speak. Mr. Shin. I'm Li Wei from the algorithm team. The model optimization plan you mentioned in last month's internal email. We've successfully implemented it. Good. Send me the report later. Yes. Of course. The elevator reached the top floor. Feng Hai was already waiting outside the conference room. Mr. Shin. Guyan Technologies team has arrived. Their CEO, Wu Dasheng, came in person. He's brought 4 executives with him. Good. I pushed open the conference room door. Wu Dasheng was already waiting inside. He was in his early 50s, a veteran of the tech industry with more than 20 years of experience and a sharp eye for business. The moment he saw me, he smiled. Mr. Shin. I watched your speech at the May 4th summit. To be honest, it was more convincing than any business proposal I've ever seen. I smiled. What impressed you the most? He laughed. Your ex-wife's expression. He stood up and offered his hand. I look forward to working with you. I shook it. So do I. The negotiations lasted all day. We discussed the technical plan, implementation schedule, budget, profit sharing, and every detail was calculated down to the last decimal. At 6 o'clock that evening, both sides officially signed the letter of intent. Total project value, 3 billion yuan. That was 3 billion more than the proposal the GU Group had originally negotiated. The reason was simple. Our solution was more complete, more advanced, and far more practical than the version they had pieced together using stolen technology. After signing, Wu Dasheng took a sip of tea. President Shin. There's something I've always wondered. With your talent, why did you choose to become the Gu family's live-in son-in-law? I smiled. At the time, I believed it was worth it. And now I think those 3 years weren't a loss. They simply taught me to see people clearly. He nodded without asking anything else. After the Guyan team left, Su Chi was waiting outside in the hallway. 12. 3 billion. Beautiful. Not bad. I smiled. What's next? Mass production of our AI chips starts next month. The Guyan Smart City project begins in 2 months. For the rest of the year, those are Star Abyss's 2 biggest priorities. And Xiao Mingxian's case? The legal team is following it. The Economic Crime Investigation Unit is handling the criminal side. Everything is moving according to procedure. He nodded. What about the Gu Group? I looked at him. What about them? You just signed the project they were counting on. Their stock has fallen for 4 straight trading days. It dropped another 8% today. If this keeps going. I interrupted him. That's not my problem. He looked at me carefully. Really? You keep saying that. But every move you've made tells a different story. I stayed silent. At the summit, you only revealed the patent theft. You didn't expose Xiao Mingxian's financial crimes. You sent Gu Yanwei an anonymous warning before everything happened. And when you filed the lawsuit, you sued Xiao Mingxian personally. You didn't name the Gu Group as a co-defendant. I still didn't answer. If you really wanted to destroy the Gu Group, you could have. With the evidence Star Abyss has, they'd probably end up paying at least 2 billion yuan in damages. I finally spoke. That wouldn't be right. Why not? Because the Gu Group employs more than 30,000 people. They didn't steal my patents. They didn't embezzle company money. They weren't the ones calling me a loser at the dinner table. I settle scores with the people responsible. I don't punish everyone else. Su Chi looked at me for a long moment. Fair enough. But let me tell you something. Gu Yanwei probably won't appreciate the fact that you held back. She's too proud. The more room you leave her, the more she'll think you're pitying her. I know. Then why do it? I looked out the window. It isn't for her. It's for me. At the end of the day, I have to be able to live with the choices I make. Su Chi raised both hands. Fair enough. I'm flying back to San Francisco. Call me if you need anything. I will. Safe flight. He took a few steps, then suddenly turned around. One more thing. Chun Wei accepted the offer. He'll officially join Star Abyss next Monday. Fong Hai is already setting up his office. I smiled. Give him the desk by the window. He deserves it. After Su Chi left, I returned to my office. It was already 8 in the evening. A plain brown envelope sat quietly on my desk. Lin Hao walked in. Someone dropped it off about half an hour ago. No name. I opened it. Inside was only one photograph. It was another picture from my wedding 3 years earlier. Not the panoramic shot shown at the summit. This one had been taken from much closer. I had never seen it before. In the photo, I was standing alone in the corner of the banquet hall, wearing that oversized rented suit. My head was lowered as I looked at my phone. The screen was visible. It showed an email. Sender, Chang Yen. Subject, Star Abyss's first chip has successfully completed tape-out. I slowly turned the photo over. On the back was a single handwritten sentence. So you weren't staring at your phone. You were looking at your entire world. I recognized the handwriting immediately. It was Gu Yanwei's. Without saying a word, I slipped the photo back into the envelope. Then I placed it in the very back of my desk drawer. I didn't reply. On May 15th, Xiao Mingxian's case took another unexpected turn. The Economic Crime Investigation Unit discovered that the money he had funneled through shell companies wasn't 130 million yuan as we originally thought. It was 270 million, more than double. The missing amount had been hidden through the Gu Group's overseas subsidiary accounts. That meant Xiao Mingxian's scheme went far deeper than anyone had imagined. He hadn't just stolen Star Abyss's patents. He hadn't just embezzled money from the Gu Group. He had also been quietly transferring the Gu Group's overseas assets into companies he secretly controlled. If he'd been left alone for another 6 months, the company's overseas business might have been completely drained. When Chang Yen called to update me, His voice was unusually serious. President Shen, the Economic Crime Unit has confirmed the new evidence. The charges may now be upgraded from embezzlement to fraud and large-scale misappropriation of company funds. How much time is he facing? Our lawyers estimate at least 10 years. I nodded. That's enough. Chang Yen continued. There's one more thing. Go ahead. Today, Gu Yanwei's lawyer sent an official letter to Star Abyss. What's in it? She formally apologized on behalf of the Gu Group for the patent infringement. She also stated that the company is willing to pay whatever compensation Star Abyss requests. No upper limit. I slowly put the documents down. No upper limit. That sounded exactly like Gu Yanwei. She had never been stingy. Once she admitted she was wrong, she always tried to make things right as directly as possible. But some mistakes couldn't be fixed with money. No amount of compensation could erase what had already happened. Reply to her lawyer. Calculate the compensation according to normal industry standards. Not more. Not less. And add one sentence. What sentence? The heart of this case isn't money. That's all. That's all. May 20th. The first batch of Star Abyss AI chips officially rolled off the production line. The yield rate reached 97.3%, higher than we had expected. I stayed at the factory from 7 in the morning until 11 that night. Fang Hai and the engineering team rotated shifts to get some rest. I didn't. It wasn't because I wasn't tired. I'd simply waited too long for this moment. From the day I drew the very first chip architecture diagram to holding the finished product in my hand, it had taken more than 1,400 days and nights. 1,400 nights of pretending to be an ordinary employee at the Gu Group by day, then driving to the lab every night to continue the real work. When the first finished chip was placed in my palm, it was smaller than a fingernail. Yet somehow, it felt heavier than the entire Gu Group. Fang Hai walked over. President Shen, our initial customers have already booked production for the next 3 months. Estimated first-year revenue? Conservatively, 8 billion yuan. I gently placed the chip back into its tray. Keep monitoring production. And don't relax the quality standards. Understood. That night, I returned to Lan Yu Bei. Standing in front of the bathroom mirror, I could still smell the disinfectant from the production line on my clothes. The man staring back at me looked 10 years older than he had 3 years ago, but his eyes were brighter than ever. I changed clothes and collapsed onto the bed. My phone lit up. A WeChat message. The number had been deleted long ago, but I still recognized the last few digits. It was Gu Yanwei. I heard your chips officially entered production today. Congratulations. A few seconds later, another message arrived. If I had known what you were building 3 years ago, I never would have signed those divorce papers. I looked at the screen for almost 10 seconds. Then I put the phone face down. No reply. I switched off the light. Moonlight spilled through the window, covering the ceiling like a thin layer of frost. As I closed my eyes, the last thing I thought about wasn't Gu Yanwei. It wasn't Xiao Mingxian. It wasn't the 12 billion yuan project. Instead, my mind returned to 4 years earlier. A tiny rented apartment. A cheap computer. The night I drew the first chip architecture on the screen. The lines looked messy, ugly, almost impossible to understand. But even then, I knew it would work. That feeling was more real than every apology and every regret in the world. June arrived. Xiao Mingxian's case officially entered the trial stage. The prosecution submitted a 120-page indictment. The charges included embezzlement, misappropriation of company funds, commercial bribery, and forgery of business documents. The total amount involved reached 274 million yuan. I didn't attend the trial. Chang Yen went in my place and called afterward to update me. President Shen. Xiao Mingxian pleaded not guilty. His lawyer argued that every transfer of funds had been approved internally by the Gu Group. They claimed he was only an executive carrying out authorized decisions. What did the judge say? The judge asked him to provide the approval documents. Chang Yan replied. He submitted 3. Handwriting experts confirmed that 2 of the signatures were forged. And the third? The third one carried Gu Yanwei's genuine signature. I paused. Really? The handwriting analysis confirmed it was authentic. But the document was only for the first phase budget approval of the Technology Innovation Acceleration Plan, totaling 30 million yuan. Xiao Mingxian later increased the budget by another 170 million without anyone's approval. So Gu Yanwei had only approved the initial 30 million. She had no idea about the additional funds. How did the court rule? The prosecution believes Gu Yanwei bears management responsibility for the original 30 million, but they do not consider her an accomplice. The unauthorized increase was entirely Xiao Mingxian's doing. Has the verdict been announced? Not yet. The next hearing is scheduled for the end of the month, but the prosecution is recommending a sentence of 12 to 15 years. 12 to 15 years, I repeated. That's enough. I turned to the window. The June sky over Jiangqing was bright and cloudless, sunlight reflecting off the glass buildings across the city. Chang Yan. Yes, President Shin? What about the patent infringement lawsuit? Gu Group's lawyers submitted a settlement proposal last week. How much? 280 million yuan. Calculated according to the industry standard we proposed. Accept it. No negotiation? No negotiation. The amount is fair. We'll take the compensation and close the case. Understood. One more thing. After the settlement is signed, don't release any public statements. Keep everything low profile. Why? Because Gu Group stock has already fallen 30%. If the media keeps fueling the story, 30,000 employees could lose their year-end bonuses. Chang Yan was quiet for a few moments. President Shen, he finally said, sometimes it feels like you care more about the people at Gu Group than your own. It's not about caring for them more, I replied. It's about having principles. I understand. July arrived, and Xing Yuan's chip production lines were running around the clock. The first shipment went out to 3 major international clients: an American internet company, a European automaker, and a Japanese consumer electronics manufacturer. Together, the contracts were worth $7 billion US. At the same time, the Gaian Technology Smart City project officially began. Xing Yuan became the core technology provider, assigning a team of 50 engineers to the project. I visited the site twice a week to oversee the technical implementation. Life was busy, but this was the kind of busy that felt worthwhile. Yanwei settled into Xing Yuan quickly. His technical skills were solid, and he was hardworking and practical. Before long, he became one of the key members of our IoT division. One afternoon during lunch, I saw him in the company cafeteria. Carrying his tray, he hesitated for a moment before sitting across from me. President Shen, may I ask you something? Go ahead. When you were still at Gu Group and shared those technical ideas with us, did you do it on purpose? What do you mean? Did you intentionally leave clues behind to see if someone would steal them? I put down my chopsticks and looked at him. Yanwei, do you really think I'm that kind of person? He thought for a moment, then shook his head. No. I shared those ideas because I genuinely believed good technology shouldn't stay locked inside one person's head. The more people who discuss it, the better the final solution becomes. I never imagined anyone would steal it. I'm sorry. What are you apologizing for? I didn't expose it sooner. You did expose it, I reminded him, and you got fired because of it. That was enough. He lowered his head and quietly continued eating. Halfway through the meal, he looked up again. President Shen, have you heard what's been happening at Gu Group lately? Not really. Why? A former colleague told me Gu Yanwei ordered a complete internal audit. Xiao Mingxian's entire team was dismissed, and the technology department has been rebuilt from the ground up. She also personally reorganized the company's management structure. And she's made 3 trips to the capital looking for new business partners. From what I've heard, it hasn't been easy. Xiao Mingxian's scandal damaged Gu Group's reputation, and a lot of companies are reluctant to work with them now. I didn't say anything. One more thing. What is it? At the May 4th summit, you showed that wedding photo. Later, Gu Yanwei tracked down the photographer who took it. I heard she paid a large sum to buy the original negative. What does she want with the negative? I have no idea. I see. I picked up my chopsticks again. Finish your lunch, Chunwei. He nodded, and the conversation ended as I returned to my shredded pork with garlic sauce. The shredded pork wasn't anything special, but it was still better than every meal I ever had at the Gu family home. At least here, no one looked at me and asked, "What else can you do besides eat?" In August, Xiao Mingxian's first trial came to an end. The court sentenced him to 13 years in prison, with no parole and no possibility of a reduced sentence. The verdict immediately became a trending topic online. Xiao Mingxian is finished. How will Gu Group survive? The live-in son-in-law who went from being mocked to building a 50 billion yuan empire. Shaichuan. I'm not anyone's accessory. I turned off every news notification. Not because I didn't care, but because I didn't like the story those headlines were telling. I hadn't risen from nothing. I had simply returned to where I was always meant to stand. In the middle of August, I received a phone call I never expected. It was Gu Yanwei's mother, Shang Liwa, the woman who used to make me pour tea and serve water. The number wasn't saved. I only recognized her after hearing her voice. She sounded 10 years older. Shaichuan. For the first time, she called me by my real name instead of Xiaoshan. Mrs. Gu. I know you probably don't want to hear from me, but there are some things I have to say. I'm listening. The way I treated you over those 3 years. I was wrong. Her voice trembled. I looked down on you from the very beginning. I believed Yanwei was lowering herself by marrying you. I thought you weren't worthy of her. At the time, you weren't wrong. She paused. That's not what I meant. I know what you mean, I replied calmly. Given what you saw back then, your judgment made sense. A man with no family background, no reputation, holding an ordinary position in the company. Of course he didn't look worthy of the Gu family. But the facts proved otherwise. The facts proved you misjudged me. Yes. But that wasn't your fault. She fell silent. I deliberately let everyone misjudge me. Neither of us spoke for several seconds. Mrs. Gu, I finally said, I don't hold on to the past. If you're calling to apologize for what Yinchin did, he's already apologized. You don't need to do it again. I'm not apologizing for Yinchin. I'm apologizing for myself. You don't have to. Shaichuan. Mrs. Gu, an apology only needs to be said once. Repeat it too many times, and it starts sounding like you're asking something in return. She was quiet for a long time before speaking again. You and Yanwei. Is there really no chance? No. What if? There are no what-ifs. Goodbye, Mrs. Gu. I ended the call, picked up my coffee, and took a sip. It had already gone cold. September arrived in Jiangwan. The autumn sky was clear, with high blue skies and thin white clouds. In its latest funding round, Starverse Technology was valued at 68 billion yuan. In less than 6 months, the company's valuation had climbed from 50 billion to 68 billion. Global shipments of our AI chips had exceeded 10 million units. The first phase of the National Alliance Smart City project was progressing smoothly, and the pilot district was already operational. Meanwhile, Gu Group slowly recovered. After hitting its lowest point, the company's stock price rebounded by 15%. There was no collapse, no bankruptcy. More than 30,000 employees kept their jobs. Over the past 3 months, Gu Yanwei had worked tirelessly to clean up the mess Xiao Mingxian left behind. She shut down every questionable outsourcing project, reorganized the management structure, and personally took charge of both the technology and finance divisions. The industry's opinion was almost unanimous. Gu Yanwei may have trusted the wrong person, but her own abilities are unquestionable. When I read that comment, I had only one thought. She should have been doing this from the beginning. Xiao Mingxian had simply made her too dependent on him. At the end of September, Starverse headquarters received an invitation. It wasn't addressed to the company. It was addressed to me personally. The sender was the Jiangwan Young Entrepreneurs Association. They invited me to attend the October 1st Industry Gala and receive the annual Most Influential Young Entrepreneur Award. Lin Hao looked over the invitation. Are you going? Yes. Brother Chuan. I checked the guest list. More than 200 people will be there. And Gu Yanwei is attending too. How do you know? She's the vice president of the Jiangwan Young Entrepreneurs Association. There's no way she'd miss an event like this. And you're still going? Of course. I'll accept my award. She'll fulfill her duties as vice president. We'll each mind our own business. October 1st. National Day. Jiang Grand Hotel. The annual industry gala. More than 200 of Jiangqing's most influential business leaders gathered in the ballroom. By the time I arrived, the hall was already half full. Dressed in a custom-tailored suit and wearing a watch that looked understated but was instantly recognizable to anyone in the industry, I walked down the red carpet. The crowd on both sides naturally stepped aside. Not because they were afraid of me, but because, in their eyes, I was no longer the Gu family's forgotten live-in son-in-law. I was Shaichuan, founder of Starverse Technology, the man leading a company worth 68 billion yuan. I walked to my seat and sat down. Front row, right side, third seat from the left. Gu Yanwei. She wore a navy blue evening gown, her hair elegantly pinned up, revealing her slender neck. Her makeup was flawless, and her expression remained calm and composed. When her eyes met mine, they lingered for less than a second before moving away. Throughout the entire gala, we didn't exchange a single word. Then came the award ceremony. Annual Most Influential Young Entrepreneur. Shaichuan. As the audience applauded, I walked onto the stage. The crystal trophy felt surprisingly heavy in my hands. The host smiled and invited me to give an acceptance speech. Holding the trophy, I looked across the ballroom at the more than 200 faces staring back at me. Many of them had crossed paths with me over the past 3 years. Some called me Little Shin to my face while mocking me behind my back. Some deliberately got me drunk at banquets just to watch me embarrass myself. Others shared the news of my divorce and laughed online about how I had left the Gu family with nothing. Now they all sat there, looking up at me and applauding. I held the trophy and spoke only 3 sentences. Thank you for this award. But I don't believe I have any special influence. I simply made the decision to stop living according to other people's expectations. With that, I stepped off the stage. The applause continued for a long time. When I returned to my seat, an elderly man beside me extended his hand. President Shin, I've heard a great deal about you. I'm Zhou Jinmin from Honghai Capital. Nice to meet you, President Zhou. Our fund is very interested in your AI chips. We'd like to participate in your company's next funding round. If you have time, perhaps we could talk. Of course. Have Fong He coordinate with your team. Excellent. He handed me his business card, and I accepted it. That was reality. 3 years ago, people like him wouldn't have looked at me twice. 3 years later, they were lining up to hand me their business cards. I hadn't changed. Only the label attached to my name had. The banquet ended. I walked out of the hotel entrance into the cool autumn night. Behind me, I heard the sharp click of high heels against the marble floor. I didn't turn around. Shaichuan. It was Gu Yanwei. I stopped. She walked up beside me, and we stood shoulder to shoulder, both looking out at the street ahead. Congratulations on your award. Thank you. Silence settled between us. Did Xing Yuan receive Xiao Mingxian's compensation? Yes. You didn't name Gu Group as a defendant in the settlement. No. Thank you. You don't have to thank me. I told you from the beginning this was never about Gu Group. I know. Another stretch of silence. Have you been busy lately? Very. How's your health? Fine. I heard you're living alone at Lan Yu Bay. I am. A 78 million yuan house. All by yourself. Doesn't it ever feel lonely? I've gotten used to it. For the first time that evening, She turned to face me under the streetlights. I studied her carefully. She was thinner than before. There were a few more fine lines around her eyes. But those eyes were much clearer than they had been 3 years ago. "Shaichuan," she said quietly. "There's something I wanted to tell you in person." "I'm listening." "The biggest mistake I made during our 3 years of marriage wasn't making you serve tea. It wasn't giving you only 5,000 yuan a month. It wasn't staying silent when everyone mocked you at the dinner table. Then what was it?" She looked down briefly before meeting my eyes again. "I never once stopped to wonder what you were really thinking." I said nothing. "You went to work every day without complaining. You never asked me for anything. You never argued. You never showed any dissatisfaction. I thought you were happy with that life. I thought you had no ambition." She paused, her voice growing softer. "I never imagined there was an entire world hidden behind your silence. Now you know." She nodded slowly. "Too late." "Yeah, too late." A gentle breeze lifted a few strands of her hair. "I'm not here to ask for another chance," she said. "I only wanted you to know that if I could go back, I would never leave you standing alone in that corner." I looked at her for a long moment. "Yanwei, you don't have to keep apologizing for the past. Just live your future well." She froze for a second before smiling. It was the first genuine smile I'd seen from her in 3 years. There was bitterness in it, relief, regret, and acceptance. "You too," she said softly. "Yeah." I turned and walked toward the parking lot. After a few steps, I heard her whisper behind me. The wind almost carried the words away. "Shaichuan, you deserve someone better." I didn't turn back. A faint smile appeared on my face. Not a bitter smile. Not one of relief. Just the quiet feeling of someone who had climbed over a mountain, looked back one last time, and then kept walking forward. October, November, December. Yuan continued moving forward at full speed. Global chip shipments surpassed 50 million units. The first phase of the National Alliance Smart City project passed its final inspection, and work on the second phase began immediately. Yuan also established its second overseas R&D center in Silicon Valley. At the end of the year, Changyan handed me the company's annual financial report. "President Shin, what's this year's revenue?" As of December 31st, Yuan Technology's annual revenue reached 41 billion yuan. And net profit? 12.7 billion. Market valuation? The latest valuation is 90 billion yuan. 90 billion. I looked at the number and did the math in my head. 3.5 times the size of Gu Group. It also meant the company was earning the equivalent of nearly 10,000 yuan every second. During those same 3 years, I had been serving tea and pouring water at the Gu family home. I closed the report. What's next year's focus? Second-generation chip research and development, expanding the National Alliance project, and accelerating our overseas market strategy. One more thing. Yes. Set up a public welfare foundation. Every year, put 1% of the company's net profit into it. What will it support? Young technology talents who have ability but lack opportunities. 1%. Chang Yen calculated quickly. That's well over 100 million yuan. That's fine. What should we call it? The Spark Plan. He smiled. That's a good name. I started in a rented apartment, I said quietly. Back then, if someone had given me a chance, some funding, or even just told me that what I was building had value, I probably would have taken a lot fewer detours. I understand. I'll arrange it immediately. After Chang Yen left, I sat alone in the office. Outside the floor-to-ceiling windows, Jiangqing glittered beneath the night sky. Thousands of lights shone from countless homes. A year ago, I had been sitting on a beach in Sonia, drinking coconut water while looking at a notification on my phone showing that 1 billion yuan had just been deposited into my account. Back then, I thought I was finally free. Looking back now, that was only the beginning. Real freedom isn't simply walking away from a place that suffocates you. It's building a world where you can finally breathe. I switched off the office lights and drove back to Yanwei. On the way home, I passed Jiangwan Road. At the end of that road stood the riverside apartment Yanwei had promised me in the divorce agreement. It was worth 30 million yuan. It had once been frozen. I never fought for it. Later, she quietly lifted the freeze herself and notified me that I could complete the ownership transfer whenever I wanted. I never went. Not out of resentment. I simply didn't need it anymore. January arrived. The new year. Lin Hao organized a company year-end celebration. More than 5,000 employees filled the main hall of the Jiangwan International Convention Center. I gave a 5-minute speech. The message was simple. Thank you for all your hard work. Let's keep moving forward together. And this year's bonuses will be doubled. The cheers almost lifted the roof off the building. After the celebration, I sat in the VIP lounge drinking tea. Fang Hai walked in. President Shen, someone is here to see you. Who? A representative from Gu Group. Not President Gu? No. It's their new vice president, Song Mingxian. Show him in. Song Mingxian was in his mid-30s, sharp, capable, and straightforward. He got right to the point. President Shen, I'm here on behalf of President Gu Yanwei to formally discuss a possible partnership. What kind of partnership? Xingyuan and Gu Group complement each other well in the smart city sector. Gu Group has strong real estate development and urban operations capabilities. Xingyuan has the core technology. President Gu hopes to establish a long-term strategic partnership. Not a merger. Not an acquisition. An equal alliance. I looked at him. Why didn't she come herself? Song Mingxian hesitated before answering. She said, she was afraid you wouldn't want to see her. I slowly set my teacup down. Tell her 2 things. I'm listening. First, the partnership is possible. Have your technical team connect directly with Fang Hai's team. We'll begin with project-level cooperation. Don't talk about long-term strategy until we've proven we can work well together. I understand. And second, if she wants to see me, she doesn't need to send anyone ahead. She can come herself. Song Mingxian paused for a moment before nodding. I'll pass along your message. Thank you, President Shen. After he left, Lin Hao poked his head into the room. Brother Chuan, I thought you said there was no chance between you two anymore. There isn't. Then why agree to work together? Business and personal relationships are 2 different things. And why tell her to come see you herself? Because I don't like people talking through messengers. If there's something to say, it's faster to say it face to face. Lin Hao smiled. Fair enough. March arrived. Spring. Xingyuan's technical team and Gu Group's engineers completed their first round of coordination. Together, they found a practical area for collaboration in the Smart City Data Platform. Gu Group would handle the city's infrastructure and hardware deployment. Xingyuan would provide the software platform and AI algorithms. Their first pilot project was approved in Jiangqing High-Tech Zone. On the day the cooperation framework agreement was signed, Gu Yanwei came to Xingyuan headquarters. Not to Yanwei, to my company. She wore a simple white blouse with black trousers. Her hair was down instead of tied up, making her look more relaxed than I had ever seen her before. She looked younger than she had at last year's banquet. Or maybe she simply looked more at peace. Inside the conference room, both teams carefully reviewed every clause of the agreement. Once everything was confirmed, we signed the documents. Afterward, everyone else left one by one until only the 2 of us remained. I leaned back in my chair while she set her pen neatly into its holder. Pleasure working with you. She held out her hand. I shook it. Her hand felt slimmer than I remembered, but her grip was steady. Pleasure working with you too. She smiled faintly. You've changed. How? When you lived with the Gu family, you always walked with your head down. But now, when you sit here, she looked around the office. It's like this whole building belongs to you. It does belong to me. She blinked in surprise, then laughed. It wasn't a polite laugh or a bitter one. It was genuine. You never used to joke. There wasn't much to laugh about back then. Her smile slowly faded as she looked at me. I've been thinking about something a lot lately. What is it? What if I hadn't been so proud back then? What if, on the day we walked out of the Civil Affairs Bureau, I had taken just one step after you? Just one step. Would you have stopped? I looked at her. I thought about it seriously for 3 seconds. No. The light in her eyes dimmed, because the man I was that day was already gone. The Shaichuan sitting in front of you now was rebuilt from the ground up after that day. The person you were trying to chase. He's never coming back. She stayed silent for a long time. I understand. She stood up, picked up her bag, and walked toward the door. Then she paused. You know. She still didn't turn around. I still think about that Shaichuan, the one who died. The door quietly closed behind her. I remained alone in the empty conference room, staring at the chair she had left behind without pushing it back. A faint scent lingered on the back of the chair. It wasn't the expensive perfume she used to wear 3 years ago. It was something lighter, something that reminded me of a spring breeze. 5 years later, Yuan Technology was officially listed on the Hong Kong Stock Exchange. On the day of the IPO, the company's market value surpassed 300 billion yuan. I stood on the exchange balcony, watching the numbers climb across the giant screen. Beside me stood Su Qi, Feng Hai, Cheng Yan, Chen Wei, and Lin Hao, the people who had stayed with me through every step of the journey. Su Qi patted me on the shoulder. 300 billion. So the code you wrote in that tiny rented apartment ended up being worth this much. I smiled. It wasn't the code that was valuable. What was? The nights we spent writing it. At that moment, Lin Hao walked over. Brother Chuan, a package was delivered to the company for you today. It was marked for personal delivery. Who sent it? No sender's name, but the postmark is from Jiang. He handed me a small box. I opened it. Inside was a photograph. Not the wedding photo. A new one. It showed the smart city pilot district in Jiang's high-tech zone at night. The streets glowed with bright lights as driverless shuttle buses moved smoothly through the city. Blue Yuan sensors shimmered on every street lamp. I turned the photo over. There was only one handwritten sentence. Your world is really beautiful. There was no signature, but I knew exactly who had written it. I placed the photo back inside the box and slipped it into the inside pocket of my suit jacket. Just then, my phone buzzed. A news alert. GU Group releases annual report. Market value returns to previous peak. Third consecutive year of more than 20% growth. GU Yanwei named one of the world's top 50 women in business. I glanced at the headline. The corner of my mouth lifted into a small smile. Then I closed the notification. The bell-ringing ceremony was about to begin. I walked to the center of the stage and gripped the copper hammer. Behind me, the giant screen lit up with the golden logo of Yuan Technology. 300 billion. It wasn't the ending. It was simply another milestone. I raised the hammer and brought it down. The clear, powerful ring echoed throughout the entire trading floor. It was loud. It was crisp. And it reminded me of a moment many years ago in that tiny rented apartment. The moment the very first line of code finally ran. The soft ding from my computer.